Welcome to our last session. This is personal financial planning session number 4, planning for retirement. Planning for retirement entails having enough money to live on after our professional career is over. What is going to be your main source of income once the income from your job or career goes away? Will you be able to do all those things that you've dreamt of while in retirement? Or will you have to eliminate some of those things from your plans because you cannot afford to do them? You see, planning for retirement entails saving enough money to live the good life after you retire. If someone asks you what retirement looks like, then you may have a view of retirement life that would be different from someone else's. For instance, do the pictures on the screen portray an accurate picture of what retirement looks like? Do you just decide to retire whenever you get old? Is retirement about how old you are? You may be surprised when you hear the answer to those questions. The next video will show you different perspectives about retirement from college students who are at different levels in their lives.
Hi, I'm Bonnie from Vanguard, and we're outside a university asking college students if they're even thinking about retirement on this beautiful spring day. And here's what they have to say.
Around 55 to 65.
I'd say around 60.
Will my bones start working same?
I haven't thought about it, but probably 50 or 55.
I have no idea, actually, what age.
Kind of keep going until you can't walk anymore.
Well, I'd want to retire in Florida, just because I hate the cold weather.
Be traveling Europe.
Chill, start a new life.
I'll just keep doing what I'm doing now, just probably at a slower pace.
I would think definitely by my late 20s.
I haven't thought about it yet. I think my first goal is just paying back my loans.
It's good to start saving now so when you get that certain age where you think you're ready to retire, you have money to lean back on.
Once I have a good job to make money, pay off my loans.
It's a very late game kind of thing to think about. Like we're all gonna have debt, and then we're all gonna have to make a living, and then somewhere after all that we can worry about what we're gonna do afterwards.
So, retirement may not be the first thing on the minds of these students. But remember, it's never too early to start saving for your future. What words of wisdom do you have for the students in this video?
The people that were interviewed in the video are not much older than you are now. And for some of them, it is getting a little late to start saving for retirement. It's actually never too early to start thinking or planning about retirement, mainly because retirement's not about age. Rather, retirement is a matter of money. You can see in the video that these college students had no idea when they would retire. They did not know what they would do when they retired. They didn't know when to start saving for retirement. Having enough money to retire requires very careful planning. The consequences of not saving enough money for retirement can have a very negative impact on your ability to live the good life once your professional career is over. If you do not have enough money to take care of all your needs, once your main source of income is gone, then what are you going to do? So careful planning is very important. You want to have enough money to take care of all your needs when you retire. So in order for you to be able to take care of all your needs, you first have to figure out what those needs will be. Remember, as you age, you may need to have more medical expenses, such as doctor's visits, prescription medicines, tests, different hospital stays, etc. All these things that you're not thinking about right now, they're definitely going to affect you in the future. You may even need someone to take care of you if you don't have family members living nearby or family members that are capable of taking care of you. All of these future needs need to be considered when planning for retirement. Additionally, when you hit that retirement point, you need to make sure that you are free of debt. That way, your retirement income is not going to be spent on paying those bills. So in this instance, you do not want to have a home mortgage, a car loan, student loans, credit card balances, any sort of debt that you can think of. You want to make sure that all of those debts are completely settled so you don't have to pay them back with that retirement money that you've been saving for a long time. Also, you want to make sure that all the money that you have saved is going to last you through your retirement years. You definitely don't want to run out of money while in retirement because it makes it very, very difficult for you to be able to live day to day when you've got no money. In other words, you want your money to outlast you. If you run out of retirement money, you may have to go back into the workforce to take care of your expenses. Now, think about this. You are in your elderly years. You decide to go back to work. What are the kinds of jobs that you're going to be able to do? Chances are that you've not worked for an extended period of time, so your skills and talents are going to be outdated. Your competition, they're going to be talented young professionals who know the latest computer technologies, the latest industry techniques, all those things. If that is the case, what kind of job do you think you are going to be able to get? You do not want to go back into the workforce at an advanced age. Do not count on Social Security to be there when you retire. Even though you may have to pay into the system when you start your professional career, as the Social Security system stands today, it will run out of funds before you are able to retire. So counting on it could have disastrous consequences. Make sure that you plan for retirement not taking Social Security into account. If Social is there by the time you retire, then you will have more money to enjoy the good life. But do not count on the government to take care of you in your later years. Make sure that you plan accordingly so that you can take care of yourself. It is up to you to be responsible. What could be the consequences of not planning for retirement? Well, number one could be that you may have to go and live with your children. If you are not able to financially support yourself, then you may have to rely on your children to help you. Living with them will free you of the burden of having to pay for living expenses. However, do you really want to be a burden on your children? Do you really want to live with your parents forever? You may have to go back to work. You may have to go back to work because you cannot afford to retire. You may not be able to recover all the expenses that you have, especially medical expenses. So in order for you to be able to afford those expenses, you may have to rely on your employer's health insurance program to be able to take care of your medical needs. Once again, that would not be the best situation in which to find yourself. You may have a decline in your standard of living. A lot of people have experienced a decline in their standard of living over recent years. Your standard of living is your ability to be able to afford your needs and wants. A decline in this ability is definitely not a good thing in your retirement years. In 2010, 1 in 6 elderly people in the United States lived in poverty, and this percentage is expected to increase. The following are the main pitfalls to retirement planning. The first one would be to start too late. Unfortunately, way too many people are guilty of making this mistake. We even saw this in the college student's interview video. One of those students mentioned that he would start saving for retirement whenever he paid off all of his debts. Let me tell you, it takes 10 to 15 years to pay back student loans. If he's going to wait until he's finished paying back all of those debts, he will most certainly start saving for retirement when it is too late. You need to start saving for retirement as soon as you start your professional career. Remember, the sooner you start investing, the more time you have to accumulate a sizable amount of funds, the more interest you can make, and in the end, the more money you'll have in your retirement. Putting away too little is another big mistake people often make. If you don't put away enough money regularly into your retirement account, then you will not have enough money saved up to retire comfortably. If you don't have enough money saved up to be able to stop working, then you'll have to keep on working until you do. Remember, you want to retire on your own terms, not when someone else is forcing you out of work or until you cannot work anymore. If you want to do a lot of things while in retirement, then you will have to retire at an age in which you are able to do such things. Another big mistake people make while planning for retirement is investing too conservatively. This means that people think that putting money into a savings account in a bank is an investment. Putting money into a savings account in a bank is not an investment. Funds that are deposited in a bank savings account, they do not grow at any rate, especially at a rate that's going to allow you to retire. Additionally, these savings accounts do not even grow higher than the inflation rate. Do you know what inflation is? Inflation is a condition of price increases of the goods and services that you consume. So if your money is growing at a lower rate than the rate at which those things you consume are increasing, then you're actually losing money in the process. The inflation rate has historically been about 3 to 3.5% in the US. So if your money is growing in a savings account at 1% per year, then you're effectively losing about 2% of the value of your money every single year. That is why only your emergency funds account should be a savings account. Instead, you may want to invest a portion of your retirement funds in stocks. Stocks are going to grow in value at a much higher rate. And then as you age, you can start shifting those funds from risky stock accounts into safer investment accounts, such as bonds or even certificates of deposit, known as CDs. Consulting with a qualified financial advisor about what type of investments would work best for you at a particular stage in your life would be the best financial decision you could ever make. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is not taking advantage of employee retirement benefits. As we saw in lesson number 3, your employer may offer retirement benefits, and if you decide to take advantage of these, your employer may offer a matching amount into your retirement account. Remember, we talked about if you put 5% in, they'll put 5% in. Basically, you're going to be increasing your retirement savings. Effectively, your employer is going to be giving you free money. So why not take advantage of the opportunity to receive this free money? As stated in the number 1 pitfall, you need to take advantage of these employer-provided retirement benefits as soon as you qualify for them. Don't leave it too late. This is what a professional has to say about the biggest pitfalls to retirement. It would be a good idea to pay close attention to this next video.
Hello and welcome back to All Things Money. During this segment, we're going to talk a little bit about some retirement pitfalls that we see and maybe some things that can help you. We see people coming in our office every day that have been saving, working their life, and they're ready to retire. And with some good guidance and some good investment management, they're largely able to do so today. There are a lot of people that can't. We realize that. But at the same time, with some help, we feel like a lot of people still can make that dream achievable. And so we want to cover a few things that I see on a regular basis that are preventing people from doing it. Number 1 is, can you afford to retire? This is something that constantly amazes me. People come in, they're 60, just say 65, and they say, oh, well, I'm going to retire later this year. They say, can I do it? And you say, well, you should have been looking at this 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago. You know, the year you're trying to retire is not the first time you should think about, well, can I do this? So anyway, that's the first thing, is looking at retirement early, looking at quantifying your spending needs, looking at your savings, expenses, things like that a few years ahead of time. And when you go into retirement, one of the big mistakes we see people make is they say, oh, well, I was making $90,000 a year, and to think that you're going to retire on $90,000 a year can be very difficult. That by and large, people that go into retirement, when you factor in increased health costs or a big one, that you need to dial back your expenses. And I realize especially the first few years of retirement, that's when people want to travel and they want to play golf every day. They say, oh, I want to do this all while I'm young. And we agree with that. It's just you've got to cut back someplace. You know, maybe you don't need the 4,000 square foot McMansion anymore, or, you know, the brand new BMW every other year. So you got to take a hard look at those expenses and the sources of income that you have, and get some help to figure out if you can retire. There's some very sophisticated tools. I mean, you're trying to look out 20, 30 years into the future, and obviously it's not an exact science, but you can get a good idea. I was explaining the other day, is if you're here in North Carolina and you're trying to get to California, what a good advisor can do is make sure that you're headed west, and you're not headed east, across the Atlantic Ocean. They may not be able to tell you, exactly when you're going to arrive, or whether you should take I-40 or I-10 to the south, or how, there are different paths to get there, but you just want to make sure you're headed in the right direction and that you're on one of those major interstates and you're not, picking your way through every small town in America, that you're on the right path, you're headed in the right direction. So another big thing we see, a problem, that people holding way too much cash. Now, I understand the year 2000 to 2002 bear market, 2008, 2009, another bear market. People are scared out there. And this is one of the things, maybe for another show, the benefit of having an advisor is help guide you through that, help make decisions about what to invest in along the way. There's nothing wrong with holding cash, short-term bonds for short periods of time to ride out volatility if you can't think about it. But let's face it, in the year 2012, if you're still holding cash because you're nervous about what happened in 2008, 2009, you really need some help because you have completely missed all the rebound. So that's something that we see a lot. So sort of the fear-based cash holdings. The second is people that have way too much money set aside as cash reserves, especially before retirement. If you're in a relatively secure job and your kids are out of college and things like that, you don't need 6 months of cash sitting around. If you have a portfolio of any size, you can and you're not invested in illiquid things. A little known secret, let's say that you, especially if you're over 59 and a half, if you lose your job and your income goes way down and you have to start drawing money out of your retirement account, it's penalty free. You can tap home equity loans. There's all sorts of strategies, but holding on a regular basis 6 to 12 months worth of cash for some unknown emergency, I think is way too much, way too much. The third thing that we see is people's portfolios just all over the place. They've accumulated 30, 40 years worth of investments. They got, this idea from their broker when they lived here, and this portfolio from their broker when they lived there, and this idea from their brother-in-law, and they inherited this stock. One thing I see all the time is people that inherited AT&T stock and all the spin-offs that they've had. Half of them are bankrupt or worthless, and they just hold them. And so you see people, they come in, they have 10, 15 different accounts all over the place. The holdings are a big mess. Almost impossible for them to figure out where they are, their asset allocation, and things like that. So that's something that we look at is, 401ks left at old employers. I'm a big believer in consolidation and simplification. That the only reason to have more than one account is for tax considerations. So you have an account, a regular investment account that's taxable, non-retirement account. You should have an IRA if you have tax-deferred money, either 401k or IRA. And you should have a Roth if you have Roth savings. So at most, you should have 3 different types of accounts. And if you're married, you can add 1 for the spouse. So at most, 5 accounts would be the limit. Everything else, consolidate in. Get an advisor to take a look at your holding, consolidate. If you have 15 different large, U.S. large cap stocks, maybe that you inherited from a parent, and then over here you have a large cap mutual fund, and just integrating all your holdings to make sure that you have a coherent investment policy and that your holdings are working together and you're not overemphasizing one particular area or another by omission. Now, if you're doing it on purpose, you say, well, I'm trying to emphasize this, but most of the time we see people, I call it the portfolio sprawl, is they just have no real idea of what they have, where it is, and there's some broker's name listed on their statement. They haven't talked to him in 5 or 6 years. And, we see this all the time. Well, those are a couple things that we see for retirement. We're running out of time today, but tax considerations is another big one that we talk to people about, where to take the money in retirement, what type of accounts to take it from. But those are just a few pointers if you're heading to retirement. It is possible. We see people retiring every day. If you need help, please look us up. Okay, well, that's all the time we have for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again next week. For All Things Money, I'm your host, David Lane.
The proceeding was a paid program. The opinions expressed are not necessarily those of WNBU and Interbanks Media.
How does saving for retirement work? There are different ways to explain this, but the easiest way to understand it is by comparing saving money for retirement to a snowball rolling down a hillside. So let's imagine that you're on a mountain top and there is snow on the ground. It has been snowing for quite some time. You bend down and pick up a snowball and throw it down the hill. What happens to the snowball? Well, as the ball rolls down the hill, it starts picking up snow and getting a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. As it continues to get bigger, it is able to pick up larger amounts of snow from the ground and it continues to grow. The bigger the snowball gets, the more contact area it has on the ground and the more snow it picks up. And it will continue to do that until it stops or it runs out of momentum. Now you may be wondering, what does snow have to do with my ability to save for retirement? Well, the money that you put away for retirement will behave in exactly the same way as that snowball. As you put your money away, your money will start earning interest. That interest is going to be put back into your retirement account so that your account balance will grow by the amount of interest that your account earned. Then, as that account balance gets bigger, it is going to be able to earn more interest. The balance will continue to grow and grow and grow, just like the snowball did. Basically, the ability of your money to earn interest on previous interest, that's called compounding. Here are some important things to remember about retirement and the snowball running down the hill. The longer a snowball rolls down the hill, the bigger it'll get. So, the earlier you start saving for retirement, the more you're going to have at the end of your professional life. If you start with a big snowball, it will be quite a lot bigger at the bottom of the hill. So, basically, if you already have home savings in addition to your emergency fund, put those excess funds into your retirement account as well. If you add more snow to the snowball as it rolls down the hill, then the snowball is going to get bigger again. So that's what the contributions have to do with the snowball effect. If you make more contributions and then your employer makes additional contributions on top of that, the snowball or your retirement fund is going to grow by a significant amount. If you watch the snowball periodically, it will not run off course and will not hit somebody's house or car. So I'm telling you that because you want to track and monitor your account periodically to make sure that your retirement goal is on track. And just as you would have to pay for the damage that you would cause if your snowball ran off track, you will have to pay the consequences of not tracking your retirement fund. Again, consulting with a qualified financial advisor is always a great idea. If you don't know who to talk to your friends, talk to your co-workers, and ask them if they know a financial advisor who can help you start a retirement account and give you the right advice for your particular situation. Make sure that the financial advisor that you choose is competent, ethical, and that he is known for his or her integrity. Those are 3 very important qualities that you need to look for when choosing a person to handle your finances. At the end of the day, they're going to be dealing with your money, your retirement, and it's not something you want to put in the hands of someone you don't trust. One thing you may be wondering is, well, how much do I need to accumulate in order to be able to retire comfortably? It really is not a simple question. In fact, it's quite complex and requires you to really project yourself into the future and start asking yourself a set of very, very specific questions. What will my expenses be when I retire? Well, that depends on your situation. What is your family's medical history? Does your family have a history of heart disease? Maybe some other chronic diseases? How about mental illness? Medical issues will put a strain on your finances as you age. So if there is a history of medical issues in your family, you potentially need to set aside enough money to be able to cover for those ailments, or to make sure that you can afford insurance coverage to be able to take care of those ailments. How long am I going to live for after I retire? Well, this question has to do with the fact that your money has to outlive you. You have to be able to save enough money so that it does not run out while in retirement. Americans and people all over the world are living longer than they have ever lived before. So you're going to need to plan adequately so that your money is able to outlive you. Another question you have to ask yourself is, what do I want to do when I retire? This question may have many different answers because it is related to living the good life. Many people want to play golf all the time. Others want to travel. Others want to take maybe a cruise, different vacations each year. But no matter what people want to do while in retirement, one thing will remain constant. They will need sufficient money to be able to do any of those things. Without adequate planning, you're not going to be able to do the things that you want to do when you retire. And that's the whole point of setting aside a retirement fund, is to be able to do the things that you want to do when you want to do them. Will I be the only one dependent on my retirement income? Besides you, is there going to be anyone else depending on your retirement income? Chances are you're going to have a spouse that's going to probably have to depend on yours and maybe their retirement income. And if that's the case, then you need to make sure that you save enough money for both of you. Do you want to have some money maybe for your children or grandchildren when you pass away? If that is the case, again, you're going to have to make additional savings now, additional planning now for those contingencies. Will I have other sources of income when I retire? Remember that you need to assume that Social Security is not going to be there when you retire. Additionally, does your spouse have access to retirement income? Well, you can start planning for retirement as soon as you and your spouse get married. If your spouse works, then encourage her or him to take advantage of their employer's retirement benefits. That way, you and your spouse can live the good life while in retirement. How much do I need to put away every year or every month to reach my goal? So, say you've come up with a number, a calculation of what you're going to need for when you retire. Well, you're going to want to work out how much you're going to have to put away on a periodic basis to come up to this figure for when you reach your retirement age. And remember that you can start a retirement fund by putting a little bit of money away every time you get a paycheck from your employer. If you are planning to do this, then a good question to ask yourself is, how much out of every paycheck can I put into my retirement account? Remember, you have to make sure that you don't put away too little, or you won't have enough money when you retire. And you also don't want to put away too much, because you don't have enough money now to take care of the needs and wants that you have right now. We're going to touch on this just a little bit later. Another question you want to ask yourself is inflation going to affect my retirement fund? And the answer to this question is always yes. Inflation will affect your retirement fund. That is why you need to ensure that you put your money into investments that are growing faster than inflation does. You've probably heard your grandparents tell you stories about how they could go to the movie theatre, watch a movie, buy a bag of popcorn, buy a soft drink, you know, Coca-Cola, all for like 50 cents, something ridiculous like that. Well, that's inflation. Today, you cannot even afford a candy bar for that amount. Well, not a good one anyway. So if you are planning to retire in 50 years or so, you can be certain that prices of the goods and services that you purchase today are going to be very different to the prices that you have to pay in retirement. And although we know like the current inflation trends and what they've been doing historically, we can't be 100% certain that inflation will increase or decrease at the same rate. So you want to make sure that you prepare for any need. Talking to a financial advisor is always a good idea when trying to figure out how much you will need when you retire. If you would like to run some numbers, the internet has a lot of resources that can help you. It's going to help you make estimations of how much you need to save. It's definitely not going to replace the need for a good financial advisor. I've provided here just a demonstration of such a resource, and it's included up next in this video, so take a look.
Okay, so I am at this website that allows me to plan for my retirement, and this is what the website looks like. This is a retirement planner, and it comes with a little graph. Okay, so it has several scenarios here, this particular tool that you can take advantage of. It asks you what your current age is. So let's say that you are like one of those college students. You know, they're about 21, 22 years old, and they don't know when to start saving for retirement. So let's say that you are one of them. You are 24 years old. Okay, you want to retire by the time you are 60. Okay, so you're gonna be in the workforce for about 36 years. Now your household income is $45,000. That's the amount of money that you make. Okay, you have zero retirement savings because if you are like those college students, you are particularly clueless about retirement and savings. Now this is an important one, the one that I have highlighted here. It's telling you the rate of return before retirement. This is the amount of, let's say, interest that you are going to earn over the life of your investment. Okay, 6% is a very conservative estimate. Now I want it to be conservative so that if it is more than that, then you will end up with more money and you will be able to live the good life even better. Okay, then the next one is this one over here, which is the rate of return or the interest that you're going to earn on your investment while you are retired. Well, what does that mean? Well, what it means is that when you are retired, you're also going to have all of that money that you accumulated in some sort of an account. Okay, so you're going to take that money out of a retirement account and you're going to put it into a different account that you can withdraw money from every month. Okay, now this investment is also going to be earning interest. However, because it is a more conservative investment, that means that you are not going to lose value on it, then the rate of return or the amount of interest that you're going to earn on that investment is going to be a little bit less than with a riskier investment. Okay, so that's what that means. So I will assume that the rate of return during retirement is going to be a modest 4%. Okay, now here is your present situation. How much of your income do you want to contribute for your retirement? And I put in here 15%. So let's say that you put away 8% and that your employer is going to provide you with or match with 7%. Okay, and that is pretty good. That is pretty good. So you're putting away 15% of your income into this retirement account, and you are expecting your salary to increase by 3% every year. Okay, now here's a little tip. If you want your salary to increase, the best way to do that is by switching jobs. Okay, But you don't want to switch jobs too often, because when employers see your track record, they're going to think that you are not very loyal. So you have to be very selective when you are thinking of switching jobs. That's just a little tip for you. Okay, so let's say that you're able to pull a 3% salary increase every year, which is pretty similar to the rate of inflation. So you are not losing purchasing power due to inflation, because you keep on increasing your salary every year at the same rate as inflation. Okay, now here is the other question, one of the questions that I asked you. How long are you going to live in retirement? Okay, in other words, when do you think you're going to pass away? So if you're going to retire at age 60 and you're going to be 30 years in retirement, that means that you expect to pass away at about 90. Okay? Hopefully you are right and you are not going to outlive your money. Alright, so you have to be very careful with this one. So I'm just going to assume that you expect to live to be 90 years old. Okay? Now, because you're going to be able to liquidate all of your debts, you're going to get rid of all of your debt by the time you retire, then you won't need the $45,000 that you are making today. You're going to need maybe half of that to live the good life, to be able to travel, to eat well, to go out once a week, have a couple of steaks, whatever it is that you want to do while you are retired. Okay? And then here we're going to put that inflation is at 3.1%, which is a pretty good estimate. Okay? And based on those numbers, it says here that by the time you retire, you're going to have a little bit over $1 million. Right there. Almost $1.1 million by the time you retire. But here is the problem. It may sound like a lot of money. You may be thinking, oh man, I'm going to be a millionaire. But the problem is that this is all money that is going to be in the future. So the amount that the things that you can buy with all of that money are not going to be as many as the things that you can buy today. So what's going to happen is that this little report is telling you in these little boxes that your retirement is going to run out by the time you turn 79. And that's not a very good thing, is it? You're going to have to adjust your spending. It says that by the time you retire, you're going to have $63,000 a year. And that'll be 50% of your last paycheck. Okay? So you may run out of money if you expect to live to 90 years old. So how do you like this little gizmo here? Now let me show you something. Remember when I told you, when I asked you what will happen if the hill gets a little bit longer? Well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the hill a little longer. So instead of retiring at 60 years old, how about 65? I'll put 65 years here and then we'll calculate. Okay? So now, instead of running out of money at age 79, you will run out of money at age 89, which is really close to your target of 90 years old. Okay? Now, remember, this is based on income of $45,000 starting. So, do you remember when we talked about careers? Maybe you need to choose a career that pays you a little bit more than $45,000, don't you think? And that will allow you to save more money. And that will allow you to live the good life no matter what stage in life you are in. So let's change this to 67 years old. Remember, people get Social Security here at about 67 years of age. So let's see that. Here, you may run out at age 94, but you only expect to live to 90 years old. So that is a good thing, isn't it? So your plan will be okay, because instead of living for 30 years, you will be living for 23. So we calculate, and it will say that your plan is on track, and you are good. Now, you can use these tools regularly. I do it. Every year I go back and I say, okay, how much do I have saved? Now, how much am I going to have at the end of my professional career? And according to something similar to this, I will be able to retire at age 65. So, and for everybody it will be different. So, play with this a little bit. Learn how to use it. It is a really good tool to figure out what's going to happen in your future, and how you're going to be able to live the good life.
The risk that your investments have is a very important factor to consider. That is the reason why you need to choose a conservative rate of growth, or interest, when you estimate how much money you will need to retire comfortably. Risk goes hand in hand with return. The riskier your investments, the higher the return. However, the higher the risk, the higher the chances are that something may go wrong. Again, talking to a financial advisor is going to help you through this process. They're going to help you figure out what your tolerance for risk is. Most young people generally have a high tolerance for risk, and the reason for that is that they've got a longer period of time to recover from any mistakes. As you get older though, your tolerance for risk tends to drop, and you want to be in investments that are much more safer and predictable, so you don't have any chance to lose your savings. If at this stage in your life you don't like risk, you're probably not going to need to put your retirement funds in any risky investments. If the risk is low, the return on your investment is not going to be that high. Obviously it's going to be lower. So you're asking yourself, well, what do I do? The following is a very good rule of thumb to follow when investing for retirement. Take on riskier investments when you're young. Again, the reason for this is that you'll start with very little money, so you need what little money you have to grow fast. If something goes wrong with your investment, you still have a lot of time to make up for that loss in the value of your investment. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, you want to take on less risky investments as you near your retirement age. It is always a good idea to start shifting your funds into investments that are more conservative and that will protect the funds that you have already accumulated. Again, I've mentioned it plenty of times in this video, but you want to consult a financial advisor when considering your investment options. I really hope that you're able to take advantage of the knowledge that you have gained through these 4 lessons. Don't just completely forget about everything that you've learned. These are valuable life skills, they're valuable financial skills, things that are going to see you through the next 20, 30, 40 years. It's going to help you live the good life no matter what your stage in life is.